All right, welcome everybody. This is Financial Epiphany, a learning event on money plus book launch. I am your host and also the author of Financial Epiphany, Scott Yamamura. So, yeah, welcome. All right. You're gonna be hearing from a bunch of my financial friends tonight. But first, let's give another hand for all the volunteers which made this possible. This whole space was empty about 6 hours ago. This was like planning a wedding. We put so much work into it that once we're done, if you want to come up and like renew your vows or something, no charge. Some of the greatest financial advice ever is save early. These two words, right? Most of us believe it. We may even trust the person that's telling these two words for us, but they're not enough on their own. You see, there's something dramatically missing from this. How do we take action? What do we do? This is not quantifiable. Tonight, we're going to work on understanding what to do. We're going to take this great advice out there and quantify it tonight. Now, as most of you know, I spent the last 3 years writing a book on personal finance called Financial Epiphany. The subtitle took the longest to figure out. These 11 words, here's the first half, it took about a month. Discover your ability to multiply money and reimagine your financial life. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Many of you know Swendini, the tallest magician in the world. If you had guessed that he was a professional NBA basketball player, you'd be right. In the 70s and 80s, he did play for the Spurs and the Lakers, 6'11". He's retired now, and he's actually coaching a basketball team right now, so he couldn't make it, but he still wanted to gift us with some of his money-related magic. So let's invite Swendini to the screen.
Hello everybody, I'm Swendini, the world's tallest magician. Are you ready for Financial Epiphany? I'm so excited for you because things are gonna be great. You're gonna learn how to do all this stuff. I gotta show you something. Scott, you got $1? Scott, $1? Scott's always got $1. Okay. Scott's got $1. I'm going to take this $1 and I'm going to put this into my magic hat. And it disappeared. Scott, you got a $100 bill? I'm just kidding, Scott. I got something else in my hat, my magic hat. A banana. This banana represents your money. Imagine it's your money. I know it's hard, it's a banana, but it's got a little green on it, so imagine it's your money, right? It's a paycheck full of money. And you don't spend it. What happens when you get your next paycheck? You get another banana. You get twice as much money. But then you've got to spend some money. Sooner or later, you got a mortgage to pay, possibly rent. You got a tattoo to get, or groceries, whatever, right? But then you get another paycheck, and guess what? You get even more money. And then you go to a seminar and you listen to Scott and all his friends, and they're going to teach you what to do with your money so it can grow and grow. And you just get more and more money. More money and more money. Are you excited about that? I'm excited for you, but I can't tell how excited you are because I'm here and you're there. I can't see you. But I've got something that can tell me how excited you are. It's my magic wand. This is not just any magic wand. This magic wand can tell me how excited you are. Watch this. Give me some applause. Are you excited? Yell, scream, whatever. Are you excited about Financial Epiphany? Are you excited? Not too much. Come on, let's do better than that. Are you excited about Financial Epiphany? Woo! There you go. That's much better. Hey, let's blow the roof off this place. Are you excited about Financial Epiphany? Let's hear it. Yay! Thank you very much. What did I do with that $1? I got to give that back to Scott. Oh, here it is. But before I give it to him, what would Scott do with $1? You know Scott with money, right? He would stretch that $1. Here you go, Scott. Good luck spending that. Thank you.
Well, growing up, my mom always said, talking about money was like talking about your underwear. And my mom's here tonight. So Thanks, Mom, for that advice. But you see, over the next hour, sorry, Mom, we're going to be talking about underwear. She really was onto something. You see, money is a private topic. But if we don't discuss it, we can be doing it in a suboptimal way, all alone, isolated. So tonight, we're going to do it together. In a simple and creative format, more like this. Okay, but first, money is a personal thing, and we need to acknowledge that. We've got some folks that aren't working yet that are here. We got some folks that are retired. We got all ages and stages in between. And so money is going to be a little bit different for each and every one of us. So although we're going to discuss a general concept and a rule of thumb, we're going to come away with 2 rules of thumb tonight. You want to make sure that you customize it for yourself. So before you make any big money decisions, consider going and seeing a financial professional. Also, another thing to note is we're going to be talking about the market tonight in a very friendly way. That's stocks and bonds and these funds. It goes up, it goes down, but past performance does not indicate future results. So that's another thing, yeah, you're probably used to hearing out there. So let's proceed. Okay, this does not look very comfortable on the ankles. This to me represents debt. 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 77% of Americans are in debt, around about $100,000 each. That's staggering. I myself found myself in hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt, and the world welcomes us into that. So how was I gonna get out of this ditch, climb out of this hole? I came across a very friendly workshop that actually taught you the money basics. It was called Financial Peace University. I took that and climbed out of debt. So I'm going to invite up 2 folks from the Financial Fitness Club, Greg and Joe, and they're going to share a little bit about doing money in community. Let's hear it for them.
Genius is simplicity, and is found just on the other side of complexity. I believe this is what Scott has done. As he shared with me some of his early work, I was extremely impressed, and I know you are, and will continue to be. I want to ask a couple of questions. Have you ever run out of money before the end of the month? Have you ever thought, what would it be like to actually have enough money to retire or stop working independently? Yeah. And have you ever asked yourself, what in the world is the purpose of this money that keeps passing through me? And is it possible to do anything in the form of a legacy for my kids to be, my grandkids to be, or the community from generation to generation? Financial Peace University is a course. There's 7 baby steps. Well, baby steps sounds pretty simple. First step, save $1,000 and keep it saved. Oh, that's a good one. Why? As a buffer. That way when the little stupid stuff shows up from month to month, it's no big deal. It doesn't wind up on a credit card with a balance. It winds up just being paid for quickly out of the bank. And so in the bank account, boom, nickname it. Nickname it the buffer account, $1,000. Number 2, pay off all the debt, except for the house. Right? So how do you do that? With the snowball method. Anybody heard of that snowball method? Start with the smallest one and then just keep picking them off like a snowball doing an avalanche down the mountain. Number 3, create your emergency fund. How much is that? 3 to 6 months of expenses or whatever allows you to sleep well at night. All right? Because sometimes that could be a lot more than 3 to 6 months. We've gone through some crazy stuff over the last 10 to 15 years. Steps 4, 5, 6, and 7 then get combined together. You're able to start working on these now that you have no more debt. Save 15% for your retirement. Maybe use qualified or non-qualified. Those are just fancy terms for Roth IRA, let's say, versus a 401k. Save for the kids' college, or your future kids, or your grandkids, or somebody else's kids. Save for somebody's education. Pay off the house. Get that thing paid off as soon as you can. Now you have absolutely no more debt, and you're into the 7th area, which is building wealth and giving. Living a life of generosity. What would that make you feel like if you knew that you could impact somebody else's life? I don't care if it's with $1, let alone millions. It doesn't matter what the dollar amount is. What have you created in your bank account? We all have bank accounts, right? Can you put a nickname on them? I challenge every one of you right now, create one of your accounts, put the nickname on it, J-O-G. J-O-G, what does that mean? Joy of giving. Joy of giving. And put something into it. Doesn't matter what the amount is, and now look for opportunities to give it away. Imagine what will happen inside of your heart as you begin to do that with people and situations around you, randomly or whatever the opportunities are. Financial Peace University, 9-week series, all across the country, in every city, both virtually and face-to-face. In fact, however you would like to participate, this is one of the great epiphanies, I think, that you will appreciate it, whether money means absolutely nothing or if you're watching every dollar. Either way. Thank you. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, great job. So, yeah, let's give him applause. Thanks, Greg. Smart Dollar, what it does, it helps simplify your money, help get you a plan to pay off debt, and then build your retirement and your wealth for your children, grandchildren. So, what I want to talk about is how we're doing money in community. So when I started at Costco, I started this program called Financial Fitness. And all I did was I posted articles about financial articles on a Google group. And today we have 900 members in the group. The point is that you too can talk about financial in your community, whether it's your church, your neighborhood, on some online program like Facebook or any other social media, and talk about finances. We tend to not talk about finances, religion, and politics, but I encourage you to talk about finances. It's because you as one person can't do a lot, but as together, you'll learn more, and the goal is to help everyone get out of debt and plan for your retirement. I think that's it.
All right.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate you guys. Personally, with my story, finances started to surround me on every side. I took Financial Peace University to learn about money. I took it again the next year, this 9-week course, and helped be a table captain. The next year, I helped teach it out of the house. I got a new job. And at the office, this smart dollar became part of my job to let employees know this is how a healthy way you can do your money. And then I joined this financial fitness club that Joe started. So finances was at every turn for me. I felt immersed in it. And in fact, I started to attend workshops and I started to read books and I started to write in the margins of the books, just like this. And then I didn't stick to the margins. And then I wrote in every open space that there was. And here's a tip. If you're writing more in a book than the actual author, it might be time to start writing your own book. And so how do we best go about learning a new thing? Find a mentor, find a community, just like these guys were talking about. Well, one of my mentors, Keith Ferrin, actually happens to have a book writing course, My Finished Book. So let's call Keith on up, and Keith, let's hear about learning in community from you.
All right, so I've known Scott for 25 years, and I'm not going to talk to you about money. I'm not the money guy. I am a coach. I've been either on a soccer pitch, getting coached, or I've been coaching people my whole life. So when I became an adult and didn't feel like growing up, I just kept the coaching thing going. And what I find is whether it's me coaching kids on a soccer pitch or whether it's coaching people through how to write a book, there are some real reasons why I would say when it comes to financial decisions that you make, there is wisdom in finding a coach. There is wisdom in getting advice from people who have walked the road before you. One of these reasons is that you will be more effective. I can tell you that as a book coach for Scott, there was a conversation that we had that he didn't like at all. Because it was when I told him that about 30% of his book wasn't going to help people. But the book that you are all, every single one of you, going to order on Amazon tomorrow, and 10 copies to give to your friends, that is something that is a better book because of what he removed from it that he couldn't see because he was in it. When we get coaching, when we get mentorship, we become more effective. Not only that, we become more efficient. We get to make progress that is better, and we get to make it faster. I wrote my first book 22 years ago. My newest book comes out next week. And I've written a few in between that, and I can tell you I've spent thousands of dollars and lots of time and money on things that were not going to help my book get out or be good. But I've learned so many mistakes. That's why I started the My Finished Book Mentorship Program, because I think that a lot of first-time authors waste money on books that aren't very good. So if I can help them make it better, and I can help them get it out faster, then awesome. But not only will it become more effective and more efficient, you need that encouragement as well. It's simply more fun to do things in community. I don't care whether I'm watching a football game, writing a book, or talking about money, or listening to music, or going to concerts. I kind of would prefer to not just be alone. If you want to get started and you want to continue making progress, there will be ups, downs, there will be lulls, and you will sometimes be the encouragement for somebody else, and sometimes they will be the encouragement for you. But I can't emphasize strongly enough, if you want to make progress in finances or writing a book or anything else, we need to get a mentor, because we will be more effective, we will be more efficient, and we will receive that encouragement. So, I'm going to turn this back over to Scott.
Thanks, Keith. Thank you so much. We're going to jump into this now and have a financial epiphany. Are you ready? Yeah. Okay, what do you think of this? Finances can be a dry, uninteresting, intimidating thing to most of us, full of shame, guilt, and regret. It can feel like a lot of noise out there. It can feel like it's overwhelming. And we can experience analysis paralysis at all the options, frozen with indecision and inaction. So, instead of taking that path, we're going to cut a path straight through via a simple framework. This simple framework has 3 principles. And when we make money pose in such a fashion and say, these are the 3 principles we want you to pose by, it actually freezes in place long enough for us to understand it. Let's look at these 3 principles. And remember, this has to do with multiplying money. Starting a career at age 22, that's a very common age to start a career at. Could be 21, could be 23. We're going to lock it down at age 22. 40 years of work. That is the average career duration. Could be 39, could be 41. We're going to lock it down at 40 years, the most common. And thirdly, a 7.2% rate of return. Very common rate of return, coming from stocks, bonds, index funds, things like that, coming from investing. And that's over a very long period of time that it's very common, and actually leads to some of the simplest math ever. And that's also why we're choosing that as part of these 3 pieces of the simple framework. All right, let's have a mental miracle with our money. Some of you may have heard about the Stanford University marshmallow experiment. Come with me as we experience what it was like to be one of the children in this experiment. All right, we're all 5-year boys and girls right now, okay? In front of us is a blessed, wonderful, white spongy treat, a marshmallow, glowing under the lights like a treasure. A woman in her lab coat comes over, leans down to our level and says, that marshmallow right there, I'm going to leave the room. If you eat it, that's all you get. But if you leave it alone, I will reward you with a second marshmallow. She leaves. It's just the marshmallow in us now. We try not to look at it. We sit on our hands. We wriggle in our seat. And we think of the 2 marshmallows. We poke it. Soft. Squishy. Perfect. And then we remember the 2 marshmallows. Time crawls on like sleepy turtles. And then the woman comes back. She gives us a second marshmallow. You waited. All right? That was the Stanford marshmallow experiment. An experiment in delayed gratification, the ability to wait. So, 1 marshmallow, and we have 2. What child, though, would be satisfied with that? Don't children want more? Why stop at 2 marshmallows? Can't the experiment continue on? We're going to break the boundaries of this marshmallow experiment and keep going. Why not turn 2 marshmallows into 4? And if we waited longer, would 4 marshmallows turn into 8? And why not practice patience yet again and have 8 marshmallows double into 16? Wow. Let's take a look at this again. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. These numbers. Now, does this marshmallow doubling phenomenon exist outside of the laboratory? It, in fact, does. Just like a detective, we are overlapping a fingerprint over another fingerprint, and we've got a match. Yes, money doubles in exactly the same way. Over regular intervals of time, money doubles. Remember our simple framework? Yeah, with those 3 criteria, that's what's happening. Financial Epiphany number 1. A single investment of money can double every 10 years. Simple concepts. The doubling of money every 10 years. Where do we put money in order to double it? Well, the most common everyday places are a retirement account, like a 401k plan, or an individual retirement account, the S&P 500 index fund, or a target date mutual fund. All extremely common and accessible ways of putting our money to get about that sort of return, that 7.2% we were talking about. Back to this. All right, these numbers, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. Start to get familiar with those. Now, if we take out the middle, something we really need to point out is there was only 1 input in the beginning, in this case, $1, and we waited. In this case, 40 years, and it turns into 16. Same thing happens with $100 or $1,000 or more. It's multiplying by 16. If we were to graph this out, it would look something like this. All the excitement is 40 years from now. This multiplying of 16, that's practicing patience. And that's hard for us to do. Most of us are now-minded, but this is a later-minded graph. Look at the beginning of this graph here. Nothing's happening in the beginning. We have to turn later-minded into now-minded. Now, how are we going to do that? I was sitting at my dining room table one night, pondering this over, and I had an aha moment. Think about athletics. Olympic gymnasts, Olympic ice skaters, NFL football players. When are they all in their prime? In their early 20s. That's right. And you know what? Money is exactly the same way. Our multiplying power is the greatest in our early 20s, when we get a job and when we have the opportunity to invest. This later-minded chart, I thought to myself, what if we flip the chart? It forces money to pose in a now-minded way. Now look, all the excitement, all the numbers are right here. What does this mean? We have the multiplying power of 16 now. This is no longer about $1 that's growing. This is about an ability that we have. We now have ownership over this. This is a superpower that diminishes over time. When we're 22, that's when we have the power of 16, and that's Financial Epiphany number 2, the power of 16, when we start our careers using our simple framework, right? We're making money freeze. Look at what happens 10 years later. Multiplying power halves. All right, and what happens 10 years later at age 42? The power of 4, the multiplying power of 4, right? Just like our athletic ability may dissipate over time, so is our multiplying power. At age 52, we have the multiplying power of 2. And hopefully at age 62, somewhere around there, we're enjoying the fruits of our labor. And although we may be still multiplying money and spending it down, it gets a little bit more complicated. Maybe that's book number 2. We'll get to that. But finally, what we have here is we have a framework to understand what's happening, right? Save early. That's not enough. We now have an understanding. We have numbers applied to this. We now can compare. We now can plan. Let's take a look at how this works. All right. Now, most of us, if we could go back in time, we might have some very, very good advice for ourselves, right? And who are we going to trust more than ourselves? So Let's go back in time and talk to my 22-year-old self. Scott, what are you doing at the car dealership looking at a new car? You're not thinking of going into debt on that, are you? I mean, come on over here with me. I can show you a nice used car that would do just as well. And believe me, Sue right there, she will still marry you. You have the power of 16 at age 22. If you save $10,000 by buying used, that can grow into $160,000 by the time you retire. The power of 16. Scott, first day on the job in the office. Now, hold off on buying all those expensive suits. That 401k plan that you're starting to hear about, I want you to invest in that. Every $1,000 you put into that 401k plan, it can multiply by 16 times because you're 22. That's right. And turn into $16,000 later. And you can do that again, and again, and again, and again. Trust me on this. I want to retire one day and do this for me. I mean, I am you. Do this for us. Scott, what are you doing at the baby store looking at baby cribs? Oh, that's right. You're going to have a little son in a few years. That's right. It's going to be a boy. I suggest you name him Logan. I know it sounds crazy, but consider investing in his 529 college plan now. What? Around the time he's born? Let's walk through how this works. The average college tuition loan is $40,000. That's what's borrowed. All right? Now, Financial Epiphany number 1 talks about money doubling every 10 years. So, if we were to save money 10 years earlier, how much would we have to have set aside? $20,000, and 20 can double into 40. But what if we got extra excited and wanted to save even 10 years earlier when our son was born? We only need to save $10,000. 10,000 can double into 20, 20 can double into 40. And look at this. If we save up front for our child's college, we can set aside $10,000 and it'll grow into what we need it to. Versus $50,000 if we take a loan out and pay interest for the very same college education. Now we get the comparison. Now we know what happens if we save early. We have a framework. All right, we're going to do another little exercise. All those who are around age 42 or below, raise your hand. You have the power of 4 or more. All right? Now those who are age 32 and below, keep your hands up, 32 and younger. All right, the power of 8, the multiplying power of 8 with your money. Okay, age 22 and below, keep your hands up. Okay, we got a few here. Yes, the power of 16, and that is in your prime. And some of you are teenagers, right? So guess what, guys? It doesn't stop there. The power of 32. And if you start saving when your child is just born, they have the power of 64. Pretty incredible. Now, I did not leave you 52-year-olds out. I just wanted to respect our elders and not call you out for your age. You're welcome. But you have the power of 2. And let me tell you, there are places in the world where money cannot double. It is an incredible thing. Warren Buffett, the famed investor, says if you're born in America, you have won the ovarian lottery. And by that he means we were born into prosperity and opportunity. So doubling money is no small thing. And if you're 62, maybe you're retired, but the thing is it doesn't stop there because you can look at investing in the younger generation and you can start teaching the younger generation about their multiplying power. All right, now all those who want to know all the other details, because we just talked about one way of understanding money, that's all in the back of this book that I wrote, all the varieties. I'm this age, what if I earn this much instead, this and that. So that's all there for you in case you're wondering. Back to this, save early. We have now quantified it. It's no longer 2 short words. We have created understanding, the 2 financial epiphanies. And we have cut through all the noise with our simple framework, right? Remember this? Age 22, 40 years of work, a 7.2% rate of return. We've asked money to freeze and stay still so we can understand it. And we end up with the 2 financial epiphanies. A single investment of money can double every 10 years. And financial epiphany number 2, the power of 16. These are rules of thumb. These are simple solutions. We can go everywhere with these and use them in big money decisions. I know I do. The past 15 minutes, we talked about discovering your ability to multiply money. And now I want you to go out and reimagine your financial life. Thank you. Many of you know Gina Cabatu, who was an early retiree. Now, Gina actually retired last year, and I asked her to be here today, and she was busy being retired. So,
Hey, Scott. Hey, Scott.
oh, hey Gina, what's up? We were just talking about you.
You wanted to talk to me about something?
Yeah, actually everybody here wants to hear about how you retired early. How'd you do it?
Not having kids. That's it.
Okay, that's too late for me now. I mean, I have one son and 2 dogs. I mean, I could try to start making them all pay rent or something. I mean, what do you think?
Well, let me tell you what else I did.
Okay.
When I started with Costco in 1989, the thought of retirement was furthest from my mind. However, my warehouse manager encouraged me, you should start putting money away into a 401k retirement savings. And so I did. And I think back then I started with, just $10 per paycheck, and then eventually I worked my way up to $20 a paycheck, $30, and so on and so forth. So, this worked for me because I never saw the money in my bank account for me to just spend willy-nilly. It became clear to me that I should be paying more attention to saving for the future. I'm not a financial expert by any means. My 401k, all I was doing is, putting money into it, and I didn't have to do anything except just watch it grow. It's kind of like on a automatic thing, you're just kind of like in the back seat, just watching it grow because, it's kind of no brainer. Seriously, you do set it, you do forget it. Honestly, by the time I retired, and took this money and portfolio into my financial advisor for him to manage, it was shocking. This is working. This is working for me. For years, my financial advisor always said I was on track to retire at 62. I had a virtual meeting with my financial advisor. And when I asked about retiring early, he confidently said, yes. And I was like blown away. So I ended up retiring 4 years earlier than planned. Life is good. I've been traveling back and forth to Seattle and Las Vegas, to visiting family in Hawaii and on the East Coast. And honestly, I never thought retiring early was possible. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for letting me share my story. I got to go plan my trip for Hawaii. Aloha.
All right, let's give Gina a hand. All right. Win-win-win situation. So multiplying money is a great skill to have, right? We now have a simple rule of thumb we can take with us tonight. That's the middle win. That can actually be the perfect remedy to take care of any overspending. Now we've got work for our money to do, and we know what's happening. We have numbers. And when we learn how to multiply money, it can move into funding our purpose. Now, the last chapter of Financial Epiphany is called From Products and Prices to People and Purpose. Now, when it comes to products and prices, we're looking for a deal. We want to wait for something to go on sale. We want a discount. We might even haggle the price. But when it comes to people and purpose, there's no price tag. That may be the very reason why we're on this earth. I came across an organization called DADS in Seattle. Marvin and Jeanette Charles are here tonight. And I watched what they do in transforming people's lives. It's an incredible thing. They help fathers reconnect to their children when they've been separated for any reason. And year after year after year, I've watched that happen. So I want to invite Marvin Charles up here to share about his story and get you guys inspired.
Let me tell you, my wife and I started a ministry called DADS. DADS stands for Divine Alternatives for Dad Services. And the reason we came up with that is because we lost our kids to the state due to drugs and alcohol. And we were able to, in '98, go into treatment, come out, and got reunited with 4 of our children. I was raised in the foster care system, and one of the questions was, if I didn't like the foster care system, why would my children, how did I feel my children would like it? And of course they didn't. So it was kind of the motivation to go get our children back and bring them home. It's just that when they came home, the day my wife brought them home, I got a phone call from a lady who was a search consultant who said, your mother's been looking for you for 43 and a half years and she just lives a mile away from you. And I was like, whoa, right? I knew I had been adopted, but I never thought anybody would be looking for me. But I met my mom. And then I asked her about my dad. And she said, well, I haven't talked to him in 40 years. The last time I talked to him, he was living in Oakland. She placed a call. I jumped on a plane. I went to see my dad. I said a prayer, help me put my family back together again. I was just talking about my children and stuff. My mother jumped on the plane and went to see my dad, and he asked her to marry her, and she said yes. So this whole family just came about. I mean, we were on Good Morning America and the whole 9 yards, man, you know? I was not expecting that. And so after the dust settled, we flew to Germany, did a television show, we did a couple of things. My wife and I talked. We lived in a community that was impacted by drugs and a number of kids who had been impacted by their parents being addicted and stuff. And so we said, okay, what can we do? And the thing that really touched us or motivated us was the fact that our children, most of their friends, had been impacted like they had been impacted. And so that meant the community had been impacted. So we took it upon our own to say, how could we help these other children, our children's friends, to be reconnected to their parents? And that started that ball rolling. What I didn't know, that you don't get rich doing nonprofit work, okay? You're supposed to laugh, guys. But what happened was, we just started getting up every day doing it. I worked a job, my wife, the kids would go off, and we made it really clear to ourselves, we can't afford daycare, so you're gonna have to stay home and watch the kids, or me, which probably fits better for you. So I built an office in our house that she used to be able to navigate. We call ourselves system navigators. So we were finding men who were having problems being reconnected to their children, and we started working with them. We started helping them navigate systems, the court system, the child support system. We weren't trying to get them out of the work they did. We were just trying to help them understand what people weren't giving them the opportunity to understand. And they started realizing, hey, I could do this. And it started making a difference. Well, then, we weren't charging for our services because we felt like we didn't have any money to apply ourselves to any other work that we were trying to get done, so how could they? So we did, and guys started showing up. I remember we lived in this little bungalow. The landlord lived next door. The garage was turned into a one-bedroom. She lived there. We lived next door. And guys started pulling up to our house to get work done. Well, the landlord thought we were selling drugs because they were all men, right? That's another time to laugh, okay? And so what we did was we found a little office. Somebody gave us a small grant. We found a little office about a block away from our house, and we moved into that, and we just started doing work. Now, I remember there was the first time to pay rent, we didn't have the money to do it. And this guy came up and said, I heard about the work you're doing, and he wrote a check for 2 months. And it has been going like that for 27 years. Folks say, we like the work that you're doing, and we want to help you do it. And we didn't see that coming. So thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Marvin. Guys, we have a special guest here tonight. He has a couple of nicknames. America's greatest chief financial officer is one of them. The Fortune 500's longest term CFO. We want to welcome up the chief financial officer of Costco Wholesale, Richard Galanti.
Scott had one thing wrong, former chief financial officer.
Oh, thank you.
My formal retirement date is 2 weeks from Friday on the 24th, but I ceded the title to our new CFO several months ago. And so for several months, I've been executive vice president of nothing, which is actually a great job. One of the Costco employees talked about the benefit of the beauty of a 401k plan, and Scott and several others talked about the power of compounding. That stuff works. And it works because when you think about it, well, it's just a little bit how it's going to grow. But if you keep doing it and you keep adding a little bit more to it every year, and even perhaps increasing the percentage each year, you'll turn around one day and you'll be shocked and pleasantly surprised how it has grown. I asked how much we as a company put in. Last year it was $650 million for the roughly 200,000 U.S. employees. But the other thing we do is we do auto enrollment. We automatically can enroll our employees at 1% of their pay. So even somebody making $20 an hour, 20 cents an hour is going to be put in there. They have an option, they can opt out and not do it. But then the second year goes to 2%, to 3%, all the way up to 20% until they say stop. And what happens is people are hopefully working more, making more each year, a slightly higher percentage is really immaterial to their way of life each day, but it does have a big effect over time. In terms of giving back, I've been fortunate. I grew up in Atlanta in a middle-class family. My dad had a small grocery store, and this is when small grocery stores were really small. And so I started working when I was 10. I didn't know that you weren't supposed to necessarily do that. Certainly my kids don't know from that, although they turned out okay over time. And but Dad and Mom volunteered on some things. We didn't have a lot of money to give away, but they did some volunteering. Again, Costco's been a great company in many ways. I've been very blessed. As my dad said about 5 years after I started here, I told him I think I'm going to come out from Wall Street and go do this at age 27. And he said, son, I'll support you in anything you want to do, but there's no way in hell they're going to make money. Thankfully, he was wrong. And about 5 years later, he said in a southern accent, I had stepped in something and came out smelling like a rose. So I was very lucky in that regard. About 10 years ago, we had the pleasure of asking and then serving as the co-chairs for the United Way of King County Capital Campaign, annual campaign, which is the largest King County campaign, United Way campaign in the country, in part because Bill Gates' mom, who passed away many years ago, was on the national board and made Bill promise before she passed that he would take care of the United Way of King County, which I think the first check was like $100 million, so that helped. But so every dollar you give to United Way of King County goes to the organizations because all the administrative costs are borne by the endowment. But we also give of our time, and it's been very rewarding. It becomes very infectious in a good infectious way. As you give a little more, you feel more, you identify something you want to give to, whether it's a school or a church or something that's a 501(c), something that's a tax-deductible charitable organization. And certainly through Costco, I know we've got all kinds of volunteer programs. All our warehouses, many of our warehouses, some of the employees, and there's no pressure. You do it if you want to do it. Do tutoring programs with inner city schools. So there's a lot of ways to give back, both financially and with your time. No matter how busy you are, I promise you, it's one of the best feelings in the world. The other thing is I was standing in the back listening to all of these fine people get up and speak, Scott excluded. No. One of the questions I think you had mentioned was, once you have enough for the rest of your life, what do you do? I remember in my mid-40s, I'm thinking, well, by the time I'm 50, again, knock on wood, I've been very fortunate financially, I said I'll be able to retire. Then I looked around the room, and I had my boss, Jim Sinegal, our founder, who turned 89 last week, and is totally with it. And I'm convinced you got to be lucky a little bit, but part of being totally with it is being active and having your brain a little active too. In retirement, I look forward to. I'm scared of it, but I hope to take some lessons from Gina, and we'll learn how to relax a little bit too. Because after doing something for 41 years and getting used to it, I think the greatest fear that my wife and I both have is being together for 10 more hours a day. So. We're going to work on that one. I thought what I heard today, I'm in agreement with everything I heard. I thought what Dad's does, I've heard you before. Haven't met you before, but it's amazing, and it's great that you're doing what you guys are doing. And thanks for listening.
Guys, this stuff works. See, even Richard can retire. But there's no topping Richard, so we're going to go ahead and end the program there. So I hope that you had a good time, that you learned something, and thank you for coming.